Sawadee krap. Sorry, I just mute myself. It's our pleasure again to welcome you members to Director's Briefing number 7 for 2022. And the topic this time is when profitability meets sustainability, how business make a positive impact. That's really an interesting topic, but more interestingly, there is a new thing that we are doing as an IOD. It's called Community of Practice. Why Community of Practice? Is because being a director is difficult. Being a good director, we have to update ourselves every day. So we need continuous learning to catch up with the world. But how do we do that? We do that by discover together every day. I use the word discover together because this is not an event. It's a journey together to the new knowledge with a group of people who are passionate about 3 topics. The first one is sustainability. The second one is technology. And the third one is transformation. And so I just want to emphasize that this is not an event, it's a journey. It means that you will see more knowledge coming from Community of Practice, the 3 of them. And it's a pleasure for us to introduce to you the Community of Practice of Sustainability. But before that, please, as usual, this is online, so if you want to have any question, please go to chat and key your question, type your question. You'll be on mute through the operation. And now, come to the speakers. It's our pleasure to introduce you the chair of the Community of Practice, Sustainability, Kun Piyaporn Phanachet, or you can call her Anne. She's a CEO of TCM Corporation Public Company Limited. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap, Kun Anne.
Sawadee krap.
So this, I'll give this stage to you now. And but before that, I would like to thank you and the COP member of Sustainability for making this happen.
Thank you very much, Kun Gulavet. We feel like you're COP, feel like very powerful. Yes, I think we are so lucky that we have very good members in our sustainability group. All of them are leaders who aim to make a change and already did make a change. But today we have 3 persons in our panel, and I'm so lucky to have them here. And the first 2 persons all have finance background, which means profitability are in their DNA. They completely understand that. But at the same time, they also understand sustainability. So let's see, how they blend, create a great blend on that. May I introduce the first person, Mr. Bruce Bromley. Bruce is CFO and Deputy CEO of Soneva. Soneva is a world-leading resort who introduced sustainability to that concept 25 years ago. It was the one that set concrete pillar for sustainability in hospitality. He will share with us on the journey to get there and how he creates sustainability to be a key selling point to the brand. The second person is Kun Chompan, Kulnides. She's the head of sustainability at Minor International. It's a global company in both hotel, retail, and also food business. The operation is all over the world, and she's the one that helped creating sustainability into the company strategy. She will share with us her great experience today. Our last guest will join us on the second half is Dr. Darian McBain. She's a Chief Sustainability Officer at the Monetary Authority of Singapore. It's very interesting, 2 things meet together. Darian has extensive experience at the green financing at international level and a very broad picture how sustainability is perceived in a global landscape. She will join us in the second half. So I would like to welcome our special guests to the panel first, our two guests, Bruce and Kun Chompan. This we will have 40 minutes to discuss in the panel, and it's going to be a casual one. Feel free to jump in, share the ideas. Feel free to share your experience with us, and then we will follow with Q&A at the end. So may I introduce? Welcome. Please help me to welcome Bruce and Kun Chompan.
Sorry, Hub.
Okay, let me start with something basic first. Let me ask Kun Chompan on her view on why sustainability is so meaningful for you.
Thank you, Kapian. I think to answer this, I'll answer from two levels. One is from the perspective of a company, and the other one is the perspective of myself. So at the company level, I think, maybe initially we set up companies to make money, to make profit. But I think that profit means that we are getting something from someone, and it comes with responsibility. And that responsibility lies upon all of us. So sustainability is to have a balance and equilibrium between the business benefits and the societal and environmental benefits. And we need to do that. We need to be sure that we actually give back not just to our shareholders, but also to our other stakeholders. There are people involved in the company, whether it's our employees, our customers, our suppliers who are impacted by us doing the business and getting the profit. So we have to be mindful of them. And that's why sustainability is very important, because if you just basically get rich alone, you wouldn't get rich for very long. You actually would have to look at others and also bring them up with you. So that's from the company perspective. And I think from personal perspective, it's really easy. It's just, you only live once, right? So you want to leave this world at least feeling that you have done something better for the world, and not leaving your kids, your children, the second generation or the next generation with the things that you damage. So basically it's just leaving the world a better place when you go.
Thank you. You can see here, the profit for not the company, but something for other stakeholder. And you want to hand over the world as you want, proud to give to your children. That's interesting. And I've been asking around different people on how they perceive about sustainability. Some of them think that, it's something costly. Some people think, there's a lot of additional work, and, it's burden in operation. So I'm just wondering, for Kun Bruce, as a CFO, what do you think about, how, as a CFO, you care a lot about what bottom line, stakeholder return, shareholders return, for all the banker. Is it possible for profitability to meet sustainability? What do you think?
Sure, and so I guess first of all, my job title is Chief Financial Officer and Chief Sustainability Officer. So I have both hats, and that means that I need to balance both the profitability and our sustainability performance. And if we don't perform in terms of our bottom line, then obviously that lands on my shoulders. And equally, if we don't perform from a sustainability point of view, then that lands on my shoulders as well. But one of the things that is quite evident, and I'll be able to show you some examples later on perhaps, is that when one is faced with the choice between sustainability or a sustainable option and a non-sustainable option, without question and without exception, the sustainable option has always shown to be the most profitable in both the short term and in the long term. And I will give you some examples later on, and I'll show you this in the real world. So this is not just theory, it's actuality. That sustainability is what drives our bottom line, and it's what drives our brand as well.
Oh, interesting. Wow. So can you share with us on how you integrate sustainability into your business?
Sure. So look, in terms of our brand, sustainability is obviously something that is core to us. Anybody who knows about the Soneva brand or the Six Senses brand knows that sustainability runs through our DNA. And all of our choices are it's incumbent on us to always make a more sustainable choice. And very often what that requires is quite a lot of innovation. And very often we're faced with a challenge, and the easiest option is something that is not necessarily sustainable, and we don't accept that as a business. What we say is, look, it needs to be a sustainable option, number one. Number two, it needs to be more profitable or cheaper or drive more revenue than the alternative. And I'll give you a couple of examples if I can. Is it okay if I share
Yes.
some stuff on the screen, if that's all right? Okay, let me see if I'm capable of doing this. Okay, let's see. Can we see? There's a picture here of. So this is. So I'll give you a couple of examples here. So this is one of our resorts in the Maldives, and it's a 78 key property. The keys are very, very large, but this is the property. And one of the first areas where we make a lot of money is in solar power. So if you look at the cost of generation for us, I'll give you some real numbers here. The cost of generation from diesel generators in a remote location like this is about, all in cost, about 42 cents per kilowatt hour, US cents. We generate from solar, the financing cost of that plus PPA and so on at about 11 cents. So the energy saving, the cost there, when you consider that our diesel bill alone this year will be $3 million. You can see how much, if it's 3 million divided by 42 and then multiplied by 10, you can see the savings that we're making by implementing solar. The challenge for a lot of companies is the ability to access financing, because obviously that amount of solar requires a sort of $5 million upfront investment, but the repayment is very, very quick. And I'll just skim through some other ones. So, we at our resorts, we take all our food waste and we turn it into compost. We don't throw it into the sea. And then from that compost, we grow gardens, and we have very extensive, many tens and tens of acres of fruits and vegetable gardens on our resorts. These gardens deliver about, probably I'd say about 70% of the green food that we eat. So the costs to us are dramatically lower. And of course, it's a fantastic guest experience as well. The food's much healthier, it's fresh. There are no carbon miles associated with it as well. So it's a financial saving, it's an environmental saving, and it's a health issue as well. Glass is, I'm pleased to say we sell a lot of wine and a lot of spirits bottles and those sorts of things. And those bottles have got to go somewhere. And if you go to a typical resort in the Maldives, what typically happens is they crush the glass up and they say it's silicon, so it can go back in the sea, and they just crush it up and put it back in the sea. What we do is we now go around to those resorts and we collect up their glass, and we built a glass factory. And that glass factory produces all of the glasses that we have in our resorts from the old wine bottles and spirits bottles. We also have, so this chap here is Lino Tagliapietro. He's the #2 glass artist in the world. And he came, and we have these visiting glass artists that come and they produce works like this one, which sold for over $100,000. So, we're turning 3 or 4 wine bottles into $100,000 art piece. That's upcycling. So this is, driving the bottom line. And then there's some more practical examples. If you're dealing with a resort, and I think anybody who's gone to visit a resort will have come across these, whether it's in Thailand or the Maldives or anywhere else. And typically the way that we deal with bugs and things is we spray the hell out of them, right? So we wander around the jungles like this. And what happens is very quickly is that the insects become immune to the spraying. And rather than killing the mosquitoes, what we kill is the other bugs. So often you go to a resort in the Maldives and everything will be very, very quiet because all the bugs have been killed by the spraying, but there'll be mosquitoes everywhere. because mosquitoes have such a short lifespan that they've evolved very quickly to be able to deal with the chemicals. What we did is we stopped spraying 4 years ago altogether. We just no spraying whatsoever on the island. Instead, we brought in these little containers here. These are bug traps, and they basically create human sweat smell. And they catch all of the mosquitoes. We put them all over our island like this, and we geolocated all of them. And this is what we caught in the first 2 weeks. And we counted every single one of these mosquitoes.
Oh my gosh.
And we sexed them. And it was, I think it was, I can't see on my screen, but it was 90,000 or something close to 90,000 mosquitoes in the first 14 days. And all of them carefully counted. And this is actually the chart, which shows the mosquitoes that were caught on our island, and you can see that there was a population collapse within the first 3 weeks of stopping spraying, and so there are two types of mosquitoes we had, and we've almost eliminated those mosquitoes now entirely from the island. So when you come to Soneva you don't, or Soneva you don't really need mosquito spray. We showed it at one resort. The red one is the second resort that we started on. You see the same thing here again, the population collapse in mosquitoes, no spraying. And I was just at Soneva last week and in the Maldives, and I can tell you that the number of beneficial insects that have come back onto our resort, the pollinators, the bees, and so on, is enormous. And all the things we used to struggle with, like hairy caterpillars and all of these things, seem to have disappeared because nature has come back.
Wow.
And you know, from a finance point of view, this is great because I'm not providing comps to people who've been bitten by mosquitoes and so on. But more important than that, the cost of this is about half of what we used to pay for spraying. Right. Oh, wow. So it's genuinely effective. It's the sustainable solution, and it's driving my bottom line. So I'm super happy with this. I'm super happy with the solar. I'm super happy with the gardens. This is something else that we do. You know, we're a carbon neutral company. We've been carbon neutral since 2008, and this is a project that we set up in 2012, which is distributing these little cook stoves in Myanmar. And these little cook stoves offset carbon emissions, and we offset all of the carbon emissions from all of the flights of all of our guests. So we're carbon neutral, not just scope 1 and 2, but scope 1, 2, and 3. And we do that through these offsetting programs. These offsetting programs don't just offset carbon. This program actually made $2.5 million of profit last year, in addition to the carbon offsetting that we use to offset our program. So this is an example where sustainability and charity also drive the bottom line. So
how can it create revenue? Like, you know, you do stove, you give for free, right?
So the stove, I mean, I'll give you the economics super quick. The stove itself distributed to a household we pay a charity to do this distribution and so on. All in, it costs about $40 roughly, and we sell it for $5 to the household, not because we need the money, but just because it works better if people are paying for something rather than getting it for free. And then each cook stove offsets 5 tons of carbon per year. That's the amount of carbon. And the key thing here is indoor. As you can see, there's no smoke here. So these little stoves eliminate indoor air pollution, and they eliminate smoke, and about 10 million people die every year, 5 million people in Asia, from indoor smoke inhalation. And this pretty much eliminates those. But we get these 5 tons of carbon. We only need 3, so we sell 2, and we sell them for $15 each. So in year 1, we've recovered our money, and then for the next 4 years, we're making $30 a year per stove. So it's a very profitable venture, and all of that money, of course, doesn't come to our bottom line. It goes into more stoves, and goes into solar distribution, it goes into many other things. But what it means is that this is a self-funding program that offsets all of our carbon emissions. So, and we can really say we're a carbon neutral company. And as we know, one of the big issues for all of our companies, and for all directors going forward, is going to be how you manage carbon emissions, right? You know, the risk around that. So that's a good example. And we're doing coral rehabilitation programs. We are outplanting 50,000 corals per year at Soneva. We're about to start a 100,000 coral a year program at Soneva. So these are and we have research lab at Soneva which does this. We'll be using blue carbon and blue credits to be able to fund this. Again, the sustainable option is going to be the best option, and that's, I think, the overall message is that sustainability is driving our bottom line. And for a lot of, I think, going back to your original question before I started my long spiel, is I think people focus a lot on sustainability as all the things you can't do, and sustainability is not about that. Sustainability is about all the things you can do. And I think what I've demonstrated in just a few examples here, and there are many, many more than those, is that if you just use a little bit of ingenuity, you can create some magic, which is sustainable as well, and financially profitable.
Very impressive. You start from something that serve your own use, from like vegetable gardens or having solar cell, to something that you start selling carbon credit and make it financially viable itself. Very impressive. Oh, that's interesting. And how about in Minor International, Chompan, how sustainability impact your business in both F&B trading and hotels?
Okay, I guess I'll add to what Bruce, great examples, Bruce, on what you have done with the hotel. So I think from our side, apart from the environmental side, what I like to also add to Bruce is that sustainability is something you can do, like what you said, and it's not something you can do in addition to your normal business. It's something you can do within your business and still makes profit, as well as impacting, the others. And sometimes it doesn't come out in the exact financial in the first instance, but it comes as the direct impact of your initiatives. For example, we are both in hospitality business. We use a lot of people, and sustainability initiatives can help, let's say from the outset, and Soneva is a great example, Minor as well, when we really drive for sustainability culture and it's known that we are focusing on sustainability. If you just look at the pipelines of people that comes into your organization, first it helps with the attracting and recruitment of your people, because you are attracting certain talents who perceive your company as a sustainable company, and they like to work for you. So you attract more talents into your pipeline. And once you're in, all the initiatives that you've done is actually one way of having employee engagement. So you actually create that engagement by doing the things that you do, right? And throughout the process, for example, Minor has a lot of emphasis on people development, training, and trying to have people being able to grow within our organization. So that on the development side results in better yield, better output for our company. And again, when it comes to retaining, then that helps, from the employee engagement point of view to the retaining or even rehiring, and how much recruitment cost, right? As long as you can retain your people, or at least you build something that your people believes in. Even sometimes we see a lot of times that people leave, and we have a program that we still trying to engage with them even after they leave. So we keep our alumni network, and they can actually come back without us having to first retrain them on the culture. We don't have to have so much recruitment expenses, and we have people who know our business already. So these are just on the bigger picture outlook of sustainability. But on a smaller initiative, for example, we have the, let's say, youth development programs that we always do. We have what we call Minor Corporate University in Thailand. We do a similar thing in China. And let me give an example of our China operations. We work together with a vocational school in China, which has actually network in the state that we are in. And we train and we cooperate with them to give training to the students there. So the students, in a way, now they learn the techniques of cooking in the way that would feed into the pipeline of our Riverside restaurant. Now we look at that together with our growth or expansion strategy, right? We know we'll need students, or we'll need new employees to become chefs to work for our company. So we start young, we start working with the vocational school, build that pipeline, they know our brands. Once they completed their studies, they become our employees. And we reduce so much training cost. We reduce the culture acclimatization of the students moving from the vocational school to our restaurants. Plus, we get the PR value because the state government loves this kind of thing. So we also get PR values to it. And, you know, in the past 3 years, from 2019 to 2021, we've already hired 800 students from this program, filling in our pipelines, filling in the exact skills that we need. And that's reduction in training costs is a lot compared to if we have to hire them fresh off the market and put into our system.
Okay, thank you. So it seems, you know, you work a lot in terms of community and also in terms of attracting people through using this sustainability, right? That's very interesting. And I liked the point that you mentioned that, you know, basically you just, you know, focus on what we can do, not what we cannot do, and have a touch of innovation and work with the with the community to get the new idea, new sustainability idea moving. That's very interesting. Yes. And right now we have Dr. Darian joined us already. Welcome, Dr. Darian McBain. She's based in Singapore. Are you in Singapore today?
I am. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Kanan. Yes, I'm talking to you from Singapore today.
Yes, it's very nice to have international view from you as well. Yes, we just have a touch in terms of, you know, what Soneva do, what Minor International do, the impact on their business, and also in other aspects. You know, for I know that, you know, currently everyone talking about green financing, green funding, and I'm sure, you know, this would be a very big topic. But, you know, I feel that it's only a beginning of the journey on green financing. What is your view in terms of, you know, how green financing will play a role in driving the sustainability?
Thank you for the question. And I think perhaps I'll take a step back into why I've moved into working in green and sustainable finance. So I used to work in Thailand for Thai Union, a Thai listed company, as their director of sustainability. And, you know, there were many sustainability challenges that we worked on throughout the years, everything from fish sustainability to looking at our factories, how we work with our employees, how we manage our supply chains. And all of those activities, we built up a really good set of data so that we could understand what we're doing and how we could track our performance. And what did we use that data for? Really, it was mainly for our corporate sustainability reporting. But what started to become apparent was that financial institutions were also looking for this data. And the reason for that is because many financial institutions are also making commitments to sustainability. One of the biggest commitments in sustainability that's happening at the moment within the financial sector is towards net zero. So reducing your carbon emissions within your operations, scope 1, 2, and scope 3. So that means all the way through everything that you're doing. And there's a grouping called the Glasgow Financial Alliance Towards Net Zero. And that currently has over 450 financial institutions, by which I mean banks, insurers, and investors, and the support community around that, who have committed to having all of their financed emissions going towards net zero. So that means if you're working with these financial institutions, you as a company will also need to be moving your company towards net zero. And this is where I think working in companies and company directors need to understand green finance, because at the moment, if you apply for, say, a loan and you get maybe a sustainability linked loan, which might be based on your energy performance, it will be linked to some sustainability related target, you may get a lower cost, a lower rate of capital lending. But in the future, you might not be able to access some of that finance if you haven't taken sustainability to heart. And so this is where I think sustainable finance, it can be a virtuous circle in that you start to measure and manage your sustainability performance. You're able to report it. On the basis of that reporting, you can get access to sustainable finance and insurance. But if you don't have all that information, you won't be able to access it in the future. And that's why I think we definitely need to start having these thoughts and discussions about how to really embed sustainability to your operations.
A lot of finance people who listen to this may be a little bit alert, but how far is it to go to that point that they won't be able to access financing, or very difficult to have financing? How far is it to that point?
So at the moment, you can still access financing, and particularly, I think local financial institutions will always try to support local businesses. But the international financial institutions are committing to net zero, and they have to get companies who are very carbon intensive and not transiting towards net zero essentially off their books. So I'm not saying this is going to hit this year or next, but within the next 5 years, I think we will really start to see a shift. And we see it in insurance already. If you have operations which perhaps are in a low-lying area, so they could be flooded, a coastal area, or where you are in an area with high biodiversity perhaps, or very difficult access to water, you may find it difficult to be insured. And as we see the impacts of climate change hitting, insurance premiums may become higher and you could become uninsurable. So different aspects of the financial system are already starting to move on climate risks and sustainability risks.
I see. Interesting.
I wonder, and could I just add to that? I'm, in the middle of a rather large capital raise at the moment to fund the next phase of growth of our organization. And the first question that comes up with every single large institution that we see is about ESG. It's the very first thing before they talk about EBITDA, before they talk about valuations, the very first thing they're focusing on now, these are international institutions, is ESG. And fortunately for us, we tick a few of those boxes, but it's very clearly something which is, if you're not on that path right now, as a director, I think you need to be ensuring that your companies embark on that journey now, because the direction of travel is unmistakable. It is absolutely unmistakable.
I see. So this is also financing, also investor as well, right? That's our perspective.
Investors, and we, end of last year, we had $100 million bank loan raise, and again, if we didn't tick the right ESG boxes, we would not have got that. This is from a European bank, but it's without question, Darian suggested on a 5-year view. I think she's going to know a lot better than me, but I would say that that's about spot on. If you cannot demonstrate very clear progress towards being a sustainable business on a 5-year view, you're going to struggle to access capital markets.
Interesting. So besides financing, how do both of you see that, what are the barriers that, it didn't happen before, but, with the trend, the world trend that everyone aware of sustainability, if we don't have sustainability, it will be a barrier in the future. Besides financing, which is, one of the key drive. What else do you see?
I think Kunpip can talk about that as well, but access to people, human capital is now making a lot of its decisions on the basis of the value system embedded in a company, and especially with young people now, it's one of the first, when we interview people, one of the first questions they ask is, what's your value system? I want to work for an organization that has a strong value system. I want to make sure that I leave the world in a better place. And what Minor is doing there is fantastic. And again, on a 5-year view or 10-year view, if you want to access human capital, at a high level, you're going to have to be able to demonstrate that. So again, this is a responsibility of the directors in directing a business.
Kun Chompan, do you have any other elements that we should be aware that it will change if we don't have sustainable?
Yeah, I think sustainability is becoming almost like a license to operate. So basically, it's eventually. Now we see investors demanding, we see financial institutions supporting. Like in Thailand, even though banks are catching up, but it's there. And you can actually, access funding easier or with better cost by going with the local banks who really wants to up-level that themselves to the global scale. And it's almost, not just the employees itself, but also with the customers. Customers are so aware of sustainability these days. And if you do something good, that's great for the company. But if you do something bad, that's even worse. That's you see the power of social media, right? You see how words get about. And I think, we don't have to wait until the regulations come. We have to do it because we see customers demanding it already. And they compare products, they compare hotels, they compare restaurants. They would also see that, if one hotel is just throwing trash around, using so much plastics and things like that, compared to the likes of Soneva or Nantara, where we actually, use refillable bottles and all of those things, the trend is coming. They're moving towards, not even, it's not even more premium anymore, but it's something that it's a must-have that you have to have in your hotels and in your business operations.
Yes. Yeah. And let me add, even my company, we export products. Within 2 years, if we don't have qualified through sustainability, we cannot trade with them. There's some barriers coming as well. But the question is, if different industry probably take different time, some people who have their own business, they may ask, can we do this later? Can we wait until the market pressure is more and then we can start doing that? Do we have the option to wait? What do you think?
I don't think you have. Well, you may have some luxury of time, but you don't really have that option to wait. If you ask me, if you really want to be profitable, if you want to actually be successful in your business, you have to move now. You can't. It's like regulations. If you don't plan, it's risk management. You have to plan ahead. You have to preempt what's coming. You have to be able to lead the pack and actually go beyond what is expected. So I don't think we have that option to wait. We just have to act now. The iceberg doesn't wait for us to melt, basically. We really have to move.
Yeah, it's a license to operate. If we ignore, it means we don't have a chance to be the leader and to penetrate the market. But if we have to do it now, what would be the key success to implement sustainability in an organization? Kun Bruce, so since you show some amazing, projects, what is the key to success to bring sustainability into the company?
I think it's very straightforward. For so many companies, we say, well, this is our strategy, and then this is what we do to be sustainable. And that cannot work. You cannot have a strategy and a sustainability strategy. They're not separate. They're not parallel lines. So you have to embed sustainability in the DNA of the organization. It has to be cultural. And in the absence of sustainability as part of a company's culture, the company cannot be sustainable. The company will always be playing catch up to those organizations where sustainability becomes a key performance indicator.
Yeah, I agree with Kun Bruce entirely. But building the culture for sustainability takes time. So we need that help, of setting up the strategy, which is integrated into the business strategy. We need those KPIs to really sort of, at least at the very beginning, get the words out, gets all the management aware of the impact or of the essence of sustainability. So get them to look at the things that they can do within their operations, and that's part of their KPIs. And it's really a lot of education needed, go through the journey of educating both the management, the board, and the people within the organization. You have to have that level of understanding of where the people come from, where their perspective come from. If they're profit driven, I think we can also, talk to them about profit, but why don't you do or make profit while you can actually also make impact? I think there are always, both sides of the coins which you can play around. Some people give weight to one side and the other people give weight to the other side, but you can play with those and make sure the sustainability is still instilled within the organization DNA.
Perhaps if I can build on that, just to say another aspect is also risk management. Bruce touched on this before, but if you look across the broad spectrum of ESG, environment, social governance, almost any business will have a number of categories where there is inherent risk to their business and their business model, which is embedded in sustainability. So I completely agree that sustainability must be part of your strategy. But even if you're still trying to wonder how that will fit together, what your direction will be, if you take a risk management based approach, I think you'll find a number of areas that will be flagged up to be your most material issues. Do you need to make sure that you have energy security? Can you access workers who are trained and have the skills that you need for the future? Many of these topics touch on sustainability. They might seem to be part of a sustainability strategy, but actually they're part of business continuity as well.
Interesting. Risk management, business continuity, and sustainability play a big role in that aspect, which is very important when the business are facing a tremendous change, probably the most volatile business environment in our life is coming. So very interesting. So I think, we have a very interesting, comments and sharing from the panel. And it's clear that, sustainability is a license to operate. So it definitely will become the same as profitability, because it gives us an opportunity to continue in the community, in the business, access to funding, attract talent, and also, having a brand in customer mind like Soneva has done, and also Anantara as well. And also, I think the key to develop sustainability into the company is to go through the culture, DNA, including having KPI in a long-term strategy as well, and that would be a part of their life. And definitely, it needs to start now, because it's something that a change of mindset. We cannot wait until we get pressure more and more, because it means that you run a risk that you need to manage. And also, have to manage it properly and make sure that the business continuity is there. That's very good. Thank you. And
sorry, and on that business continuity point, and just extending what Darian said, from a director's point of view, directors have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure the long-term success of a business. Right? That's their key role, and by definition, that means the business must be sustainable. So I think that in that context, therefore, directors have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure the businesses operate sustainably. Simple as that.
Thank you, Bruce. It's a very good conclusion. It's fiduciary role of the board of directors to make sure this happens. Yes. I would like to open for Q&A. I see some question coming. Let me read the question for you. Okay, I'm sorry, my loaded. Okay. The question is for Darian. Hi, Darian. Great to see you again. Given your experience with Thai Union and now MAS, the sustainability attempt has been driven more or less by carrots, such as green financing, and sticks, such as Greenpeace report in the Thai Union case. This will be more significant for companies that have accountability toward customers that demand this sustainable acts. Many companies are merely undertaking sustainability as a PR attempt. From your experience, what is the most challenging obstacle in promoting ESG in Thailand? Are most companies just checking the box of CSR ranking? Please, Darian.
Okay, there's many questions in there. So perhaps I'll go to what I'm doing now. Since leaving Thai Union in Singapore, I work for a regulator that offers both carrots and sticks. So the carrot is definitely in the terms of green and sustainable finance. That is an incentive to have much better quality data and to manage your sustainability impacts, but also many of the things that Pip and Bruce touched upon, like better access to talent, better access to consumer markets. Some of the sticks will be on the regulatory front. So it may not be in Thailand at the moment, but it's certainly happening around the world that reporting requirements are becoming mandatory, whether this is through stock exchanges or through other regulations. And you need to be very clear on how you are aligning your business towards managing climate risks. So one framework, task force for climate-related financial disclosures, that is becoming mandatory in a number of areas. There's a new framework being developed which is looking at nature-based risks. So how will you disclose what risks you pose to nature and nature poses to you in your business? And this isn't limited to businesses that have a consumer-facing front. This is to the regulators, when you're facing the regulators, and if you're working across different markets, perhaps if you're selling into the European Union, for example, you will face these regulations. So in that sense, if you have an international business, it isn't just the Thai regulations that you will need to worry about. Going back to, I guess, the piece about consumer business and the comment on Greenpeace and Thai Union, if I reflect back on what was a very challenging time, actually, it was also good. We need to challenge ourselves. It was a difficult time to work with Greenpeace, but at the same time, Thai Union had the only global agreement with Greenpeace, I think, that's ever happened. And that was a 1.5 years of difficult negotiation. I think Greenpeace learned something through working with us, but we definitely learned something through working with Greenpeace as well. Ultimately, NGOs are civil society. Civil society is made up of people like ourselves. These issues aren't coming really from out of nowhere. I think any business and any corporate director needs to listen to their stakeholders. And stakeholders are many and varied. It's not just other corporate directors. It isn't just the regulators. It is consumers. It is school children. It is all of your different priority stakeholders. And so the better that you manage those risks that I managed before, I think the better that you're going to be able to respond to different stakeholder needs.
Thank you. And from your experience, what is the most challenging obstacle in promoting ESG in Thailand?
Perhaps that at the moment it isn't mandatory, and that can be a challenge. So once you take away the question of I can operate unsustainably or I can operate sustainably, if you don't have that choice because it's a mandatory regulated requirement, in a sense it makes the job for a CSO much easier. I'm sure Pip and Bruce could agree with that. If you have to comply, then you must comply. But at the same time, I did find, within Thailand and Thai culture, an inherent understanding of some aspects of sustainability, whether that's how you work with your community, whether that is some level of self-sufficiency model. And so perhaps when you're starting out, it's to look at where the synergies are and where people do understand what you're trying to do. And it goes back to Bruce's point about your business strategy. What are you trying to achieve with your business? It shouldn't be a sustainability or a corporate social responsibility strategy and there's what we do with our business. Like, they shouldn't be two separate things. It's about thinking about how can my business actually meet this purpose and what are we trying to do? And that should be aligned with sustainability outcomes.
Interesting. And I agree that, right now, a lot of companies still do CSR for CSR purpose. But, as we discussed, the business landscape are changing. If you don't very sincerely look at it, you won't pass the measurement to access a lot of customer talent, funding, and all those stuff, right? So that wave is coming, right? To address the level on the current CSR angle of ESG. Okay, another question is two interrelated but differing dimensions: sustainability and competitiveness. What is your view on its relationship? Very interesting. Can I pass this question to Bruce?
I had a feeling it was coming my way. I just need to...
Okay, two interrelated but differing dimensions about sustainability and competitiveness. What is your view on its relationship?
I think that, I'm not sure how we would drive how we would define competitiveness. If we're talking about, I suppose, a manufacturing business, then, even there, I think at some level you're selling to a consumer, and at some level, a consumer is making a decision as to whether they purchase, even if it's something like an Apple Mac versus a PC of some description. At some point, they're making a decision as to whether they want a sustainable option. So I think that to be competitive going forward, you're going to need to be sustainable, because the definition of competition is literally trying to attract people to your brand, your company, over and above attracting them being attracted to other companies. So I do think that sustainability is a key component of being competitive. And certainly, if you're in the hospitality space, any consumer-focused business, I think that's definitely the case. And at some level, every business is a consumer-focused business.
It's very interesting, because I feel that your answer, if I look and relate it to my business, we do a lot of exporting, right? Right now, when we do sustainability product, the cost actually is slightly higher. Certain market accept it, certain market probably not. But if I look at your product, you say Soneva product, you create as part of the brand, and I can see that Western market very well received at first, and then later on, all the Asian appreciate that as well. So it means that it just when the culture allowed them to pick up, right? So that means probably your competitiveness could be international as well, even and pick up in different rates.
Yeah, look, and I think that Darian really hit this point on the head a short while ago. When you look at regulation and the direction of travel, there is no escaping. It doesn't matter what business you're in. There is simply no escaping the fact that if you're producing screws or food in a restaurant or whatever it is, if you're exporting to Europe, there's certain regulations now which you cannot escape. That regulation creep is coming this way, and it's simply going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. And I think that businesses, it's the first movers here, or the fast movers at least, which are going to be the beneficiaries of this. And if you continue to view sustainability as something that's undermining the performance, instead of trying to find a way in which you can make the sustainable option the most profitable option. And that was something I touched upon in some of the examples I gave at the very beginning, is I do not allow people to come to me with a sustainable option which is more expensive. It's just ruled out. Go back, please come back with a sustainable option which is cheaper or drives more revenue. It's in the innovation that you move forward. It's in the excuses that you stay where you are. And we demand the innovation rather than the excuse about, well, it's more expensive. Find a cheaper way and make sure it's sustainable.
Oh, wow. I really like that. It's innovation that drives it. And that's why you stay here. You stay where you are. One last question. I would go for Kun Chompan. That, because you do a lot of practice in that, in sustainability. Now, a lot of business are working towards sustainability and report the numbers. how can investors can be confident of the sustainability disclosure, especially the difficult to measure parameters such as GHG, Scope 3?
I guess that's probably the trend that we see also towards having a third-party verification. I have to say that. And it's all about, how you actually have your database set up, how you collect your data correctly. Initially, you can report whatever you say you're reporting, right? And I think that's the consequences of that is that investors start having or not having enough confidence in those data. That's why they start demanding the third-party verifications. I think that's probably it. But to backtrack a little bit on that, I think for whichever companies that's starting on sustainability journeys, it is now a requirement that you need to collect data and need to be able to verify your data correctly. It will definitely come in handy with investors. It will come in handy with financier and regulators, definitely. So there are multiple ways of calculating, the GHG, especially Scope 3. But I think it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Even for us, we are still learning that journey on the Scope 3 as well. But I think we are consolidating data type by type of each of the GHG, and we are open and transparent about what data we report. I think as long as your data is verifiable and also you're transparent about your coverage of data, you're being disciplined with your data collection. I think that's the way to go.
Thank you. Darian, would you like to share something? Because the one who use data. So.
Look, I think data is the thing that's connecting what we'll call the real economy, so the businesses who are doing things, with the financial sector. The two are disconnected without data. So the sooner you start collecting data, the better. And that's difficult. I don't want to underrepresent how challenging it is to start to go out and to find out each piece of machinery or each farm, very granular level. How do you build up the picture of information, whether it's around carbon and energy consumption or water consumption, or even some of the social dimensions? But start somewhere. Start where you can see you have the opportunity, and then continue to build up. If you say, I want to get everything, including all Scope 3 emissions, within a month, I think you'll fall over. It is a big challenge. But there's also a great community of practice, and the Institute of Directors has this as well, of people who've been doing this for many years, whether it's sustainability practitioners or it could be, chief engineers. There are many people across different organizations who have this experience. And I think in Thailand, people are really willing to share their experience and help others learn. In Singapore, I find there's a great fintech sector. So using technology to help enable you to get access to better quality data. So look at where there's levers that you can pull and opportunities. Don't try to go for the biggest hurdles straight away. Build success upon success.
Thank you. Very good conclusion. Focus on what we can do first. Don't focus on what we cannot do. So this is wonderful, and thank you very much for sharing such an interesting story and great experience, and also vision going forward on where we have to where's a train coming, and we cannot wait until it comes. We have to start it now and focus on what we can do. Okay, so you can watch the video again. If any audience missed and you want to share with others, you can watch the video again and tell other members on. I think IOD has different social media channels that we publish these sessions. I would like to hand over back to IOD team on the closing.
Oh, thank you very much. I found the discussion very insightful. And like I said at the beginning, this is not an event, it's a journey to discover the new world together. There is no such thing as expert anymore, because with the world changing this fast, there is no expert. It's just that we discover together. And that comes to the end of this. I would like to thank the Community of Practice Sustainability, Dr. Darian, Kun Chompan, Mr. Bruce, and Kun Piyaporn. And many thanks to all members for joining our journey. And thanks to Indorama Venture Public Company Limited for supporting this event. And our next journey, or the beginning of next journey, is the director briefing by Community of Practice, Technology and Innovation on reimagining boardroom in Web 3.0 era on June 22nd from 2 to 3. This is interesting because, Web 3.0 is coming. I did not even know that there's such thing as Web 2.0 or 1.0, but with 3.0, all the traceability or the blockchain can change the way company disclose their data, which means they might change the way the auditors check the number, or even the audit committees, or even the board of directors. So stay tuned for that. And finally, I would like to ask everyone to do the event evaluation. Your feedback is very important, really. And if you could also say what you hear about sustainability in future, that would guide us to the right direction. And we are going to be in this fun journey together. Meanwhile, thank you and have a nice day. สวัสดีครับ
Thank you everyone.